Christmas morning. Empty apartment. Microwaved dinner for one while my family celebrated without me. They said they were too broke for Christmas this year. No gifts, no dinner, just stay home, Amanda. I believed them completely. Until I opened Instagram that night and saw my sister's live stream from their luxury Christmas party. 3 days later, Dad called asking for $3,800. Like nothing had happened. That's when I learned the most expensive lesson about family lies and financial boundaries. I'm Amanda, and this is the story of how I discovered my family had been using me as their personal ATM while lying straight to my face. What started as a quiet Christmas alone turned into the moment I finally said enough and cut them off completely. But first, let me take you back to where it all began. December 20th. I was sitting in my small studio apartment, scrolling through my phone when Mom called. Her voice had that tired, stressed tone I'd grown accustomed to over the years. "Honey, I need to talk to you about Christmas," she said, and my heart immediately sank. I knew that tone. It was the same one she used when she needed something. "What's wrong, Mom?" "Well, things have been really tight this year. Your father's hours got cut back, and Sarah's still looking for work after graduation. We've talked as a family, and we think it's best if we just skip Christmas this year." Skip Christmas. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Christmas had always been our thing. The one time of year when our family actually felt like a family. Sure, we had our issues, but Christmas morning was sacred. It was tradition. "What do you mean skip it?" I asked, trying to keep the disappointment out of my voice. "No big dinner, no gift exchange. Everyone's just going to stay home and keep it low-key. Maybe we'll do something in the new year when things get better." I stared at the small Christmas tree I'd already set up in the corner of my apartment. I'd bought it specifically because I was so excited to host Christmas for the first time. My place was tiny, but I'd imagined squeezing everyone in, making it cozy and warm. "But I already bought gifts," I said weakly. "Oh, sweetie, you didn't need to do that. Save your money. You work so hard, and we know that teaching salary isn't much. Just take care of yourself this year." There it was. The gentle reminder that I was the one with the stable job, even though that stable job barely covered my rent and student loans. But somehow, I was always the one they turned to when money got tight. Over the past 2 years, I'd helped Dad with his car payment 3 times, covered Sarah's phone bill for 6 months, and even paid for Mom's prescription medications when their insurance was processing claims. "Are you sure there's nothing I can do to help?" I found myself asking, because that's what I always did. I was the helper, the reliable one, the daughter who never caused problems. No, we just need to be responsible this year. Honestly, it'll be nice to have a quiet holiday for once. After we hung up, I sat there feeling hollow. A quiet holiday. Translation: Amanda's not invited to whatever they're actually doing, but I pushed that thought away. I was being paranoid. Mom sounded genuinely stressed about money. I knew Dad's construction work had been inconsistent, and Sarah had been struggling to find a job with her art degree. I spent the next few days returning the gifts I'd bought, the sweater for Mom, the tool set for Dad, the art supplies for Sarah. The returns felt like little defeats, each receipt a reminder that Christmas wasn't happening this year. At least, not for me. December 24th came and went in silence. No calls, no texts. I kept my phone close, hoping someone would reach out, maybe change their mind. But nothing. I made myself a grilled cheese sandwich for dinner and watched old Christmas movies until I fell asleep on my couch. Christmas morning was worse. I woke up to absolute silence. No family chaos, no excited voices, no smell of Mom's cinnamon rolls. Just me in my studio apartment and the sad little tree with no presents underneath. I heated up a frozen dinner and ate it while watching other families' Christmas posts on social media. Everyone looked so happy, so together. That's when the first crack appeared in my perfect trust. I was scrolling through Instagram, torturing myself with everyone else's perfect Christmas mornings, when I saw it. Sarah's story. My little sister, who supposedly couldn't afford Christmas, was posting a live stream from what looked like an upscale restaurant. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before, sitting at a table set with fancy china and crystal glasses. My finger hovered over the screen. The video was live. She was laughing with someone off camera, holding up a glass of what looked like champagne. In the background, I could see other people, and the lighting was all warm and golden, like some fancy holiday dinner. "Having the most amazing Christmas dinner," she'd captioned it. "So grateful for family." I watched for maybe 30 seconds, my brain trying to process what I was seeing. Maybe it was a friend's family. Maybe someone had invited her last minute. Maybe there was an explanation that made sense. But then I heard Dad's laugh in the background. That distinctive, booming laugh that had filled our house every Christmas morning my entire life. I screenshotted the story before I could stop myself, then immediately felt guilty for doubting them. There had to be an explanation. Maybe it was some kind of work function Dad had gotten invited to. Maybe someone else was paying. Maybe I was misunderstanding the situation. I called Sarah directly. It went straight to voicemail. Then I tried Mom. Same thing. Dad, too. For the first time in my adult life, I spent Christmas completely alone, while somewhere across town, my family was apparently having the fancy Christmas dinner they'd told me we couldn't afford. But even then, I made excuses for them. I told myself I was jumping to conclusions. I crafted elaborate explanations in my head. Maybe it was Dad's boss treating the crew to dinner. Maybe Mom had won something at work. Maybe Sarah was dating someone new with money. I spent that entire Christmas night lying awake, staring at the screenshot on my phone, trying to convince myself there was an innocent explanation. December 26th. Mom finally called me back. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry I missed your call yesterday. We ended up going to your Aunt Linda's after all. Last minute thing," Linda insisted, "and you know how she gets." Aunt Linda. Mom's sister who lived 2 hours away and who we saw maybe once a year. The same Aunt Linda who always served a dinner on her grandmother's china and had that fancy dining room with the crystal chandelier. "That looked like a really nice dinner," I said carefully. There was a pause. "What do you mean?" "Sarah posted about it on Instagram. It looked fancy." Another pause, longer this time. "Oh, you know Sarah. She makes everything look fancier than it is. Linda just wanted to use the good dishes since it was Christmas. We brought potluck style, nothing expensive." It was a reasonable explanation, almost believable, except for one thing. "Why didn't you invite me?" "Oh, sweetie, it was so last minute and Linda's house is so small. We barely fit as it was. Plus, you know, with gas prices and everything, we figured it would be expensive for you to drive all that way." Expensive for me to drive, but not expensive for them. Expensive for me, but somehow they'd managed to afford gas, plus potluck contributions, plus Sarah's new dress. But I swallowed my doubts again because this was my family. They wouldn't lie to me, not about Christmas. I was really looking forward to Christmas this year, I admitted. "I know, honey. Next year will be better, I promise." December 28th. That's when the second crack appeared, and this one I couldn't explain away. Dad called me at 10 a.m. while I was grading papers. He sounded cheerful, relaxed, like a man who'd just had a wonderful holiday. "Hey, kiddo, how was your Christmas?" How was my Christmas? The Christmas I'd spent alone because they were too broke for family celebration. "It was quiet," I said. "Good, good. Sometimes quiet is nice, right? Hey, I'm calling because I need to ask you a favor." Of course he was. Of course the first time I heard from him after Christmas was because he needed something. "What's up, Dad?" "Well, Sarah's got this opportunity. You know she's been trying to get her art career off the ground, and this gallery downtown wants to feature her work. But they need a deposit to hold the space. It's $3,800. $3,800. I stared at my laptop screen, at the stack of papers I needed to grade, at my own bank account that had exactly $4,200 in it after paying rent. That's a lot of money, Dad." I know, but this could be huge for her. You know how talented she is. This could really launch her career, and we'll pay you back, of course, as soon as the gallery sales start coming in. Sarah's art career. The same Sarah who'd been posting about not being able to find work. The same Sarah who'd somehow afforded a new dress for Christmas dinner. The same Sarah who was now getting gallery opportunities that required nearly $4,000 deposits. "Dad, didn't you say things were tight this year? That's why we canceled Christmas? Well, yeah, but this is different. This is an investment in Sarah's future. You know we'd do the same for you if you needed it. Would they? When had they ever done the same for me? When I'd needed help with my student loan payments, they'd told me I was building character by handling it myself. When my car broke down last year, they'd suggested I take the bus while I saved up for repairs. When I'd asked for help with my security deposit for this apartment, they'd said they couldn't spare the money. But now, 3 days after lying to me about being too broke for Christmas, Dad was asking me to hand over nearly my entire savings account for Sarah's art career. I need to think about it, I said. Sure, but don't think too long. The gallery needs an answer by New Year's. After he hung up, I sat there staring at my phone. Something was wrong. Something had been wrong for a while, but I'd been too loyal, too trusting, too desperate to believe in my family to see it. I opened Instagram again and looked at Sarah's Christmas story. I screenshotted it again, then started scrolling back through her recent posts. There was the new dress from Christmas. Before that, a photo from a coffee shop I knew was expensive. Before that, pictures from a weekend trip to the mountains I hadn't heard about, all posted within the last month, all while she was supposedly unemployed and broke. Then I scrolled through Mom's Facebook, photos from the same mountain trip with Sarah, a check-in at an expensive restaurant the week before Christmas, a post about buying early Christmas presents at a boutique store I couldn't afford to shop at, and Dad's posts, new tools in his garage, a photo of his truck with new tires, a post about treating himself to a fancy dinner, all posted within the last month, all while they were apparently too broke for Christmas, all while they were planning to ask me for $3,800. That's when it hit me. The awful, crushing realization that made my stomach drop and my hands shake. They weren't broke. They had never been broke. They just didn't want to spend their money on Christmas with me. They wanted to save it for themselves, for their own celebration, for their own plans. And then, 3 days later, they wanted me to fund Sarah's gallery deposit. I wasn't their daughter. I was their bank account. I spent that night going through 2 years of text messages, bank statements, and social media posts. The pattern was crystal clear once I started looking for it. Every time they claimed to be struggling financially, every time they asked me for money, there was evidence of them spending money on themselves. The car payment help coincided with Dad's new fishing equipment. The phone bill assistance came right after Mom's spa weekend. The prescription medication money happened during the same month Sarah took that expensive art class. They weren't asking for help because they needed it. They were asking because they knew I'd say yes. Because I was the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who never questioned their needs or their stories. I was their safety net, their backup plan, their financial cushion. And I had been for years without even realizing it. The worst part? They'd trained me to do it. Trained me to feel guilty for having a stable income while they struggled. Trained me to believe that helping family was always the right thing to do. Trained me to swallow my own needs and desires to meet theirs. But Christmas had been the final straw. Lying to me about being too broke for family celebration while they were actually having an expensive dinner without me? That wasn't just financial manipulation. That was emotional cruelty. And now, 3 days later, Dad was calling like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't spent Christmas alone because of their lies. Like I was just supposed to hand over $3,800 with a smile and of course, family comes first. December 30th. Mom called to check in and probably pressure me about the gallery deposit. "Have you thought about what Dad asked you?" she said after the usual small talk. "Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot. Sarah's really excited about this opportunity. It could change everything for her." "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course, honey." "Why did you lie to me about Christmas?" Silence. Long, telling silence. "What do you mean?" "I saw Sarah's Instagram story. I know you weren't too broke for Christmas. I know you had dinner at Aunt Linda's. Why didn't you just tell me the truth?" "Amanda, you're misunderstanding the situation." "Am I? Because it looked like a pretty expensive Christmas dinner to me, and now you want me to give you $3,800 3 days later? This is completely different. The gallery thing just came up. We couldn't have predicted it. But you could have predicted Christmas. Christmas happens every year, Mom. You planned that dinner. You planned to exclude me. You just told me you were broke so I wouldn't ask questions. That's not. You're making this sound worse than it is. We thought you might prefer a quiet Christmas anyway. You're always so busy with work. There it was. The gaslighting, making me doubt my own perception of reality, making it my fault somehow. I was too busy for family Christmas, but not too busy to fund Sarah's art career. I spent Christmas alone, Mom, completely alone, while you were all together having the kind of Christmas I'd been hoping we could have. Well, if you'd wanted to come to Linda's, you could have asked. Asked to come to Christmas dinner? Asked to be included in my own family's Christmas celebration? You're being dramatic, Amanda. It wasn't that big of a deal. Dramatic. There was another word they used to dismiss my feelings. Whenever I expressed hurt or disappointment, I was being dramatic or sensitive or overthinking things. Mom, I need you to be honest with me. Are you actually struggling financially, or do you just want me to pay for things so you don't have to? I can't believe you're asking me that, after everything we've done for you. What have you done for me? When? Because I've been thinking about it and I can't remember the last time you helped me with anything, but I can remember every time you've asked me for money. We raised you. We fed you and clothed you and put a roof over your head for 18 years. That's called being a parent, Mom. That's not something you get paid back for. I don't like your tone, Amanda. You're being very selfish right now. Selfish. For wanting to be included in Christmas, for questioning why they needed nearly $4,000 from me while posting about their own expensive purchases, for asking for honesty from my own family. I'm being selfish? Yes. Sarah has a real opportunity here, and you're making it about yourself and your hurt feelings over Christmas. My hurt feelings. Like being excluded from family Christmas was just me being overly emotional. Like discovering my family had lied to me was just a personal character flaw. Mom, I'm not giving you the money. What? I said no. I'm not giving you $3,800 for Sarah's gallery deposit. Amanda, you can't be serious. This is your sister's future we're talking about. And what about my future? What about my savings? What about the fact that you lied to me? We didn't lie to you. You're twisting everything around. You told me you were too broke for Christmas. Then you had an expensive Christmas dinner without me. Then you asked me for $3,800. If that's not lying, what is it? It's complicated. You wouldn't understand. Try me. But she couldn't explain it, because there was no explanation that made sense. There was no version of this story where they weren't wrong, so instead, she got angry. Fine, be selfish, but don't come crying to us when you need help. And she hung up. I sat there holding my phone, shaking, not from fear or sadness, but from rage. Pure, clean rage at the manipulation, the lies, the guilt trips, the complete dismissal of my feelings and my reality. Don't come crying to us when you need help. When had I ever cried to them for help? When had they ever offered help without me having to beg for it or prove I deserved it? The answer was never. I had been their safety net, their backup plan, their emergency fund. But they had never been mine. That night, I did something I'd never done before. I made a list. Every time they'd asked me for money in the past 2 years, every excuse they'd given, every promise to pay me back that had never materialized, every time I'd sacrificed something I wanted or needed to help them out. The total was $11,400. $11,400 over 2 years. Money I'd given gladly because I thought my family needed help. Money that had come from my teaching salary, my side tutoring gigs, my savings account. Money I could have used for a better apartment, a reliable car, a vacation, an emergency fund of my own. $11,000, and they'd repaid exactly 0 of it. But somehow, I was the selfish one for saying no to $3,800 more. December 31st, New Year's Eve, the day Dad called to remind me about the gallery deadline. Hey kiddo, just checking in about that gallery deposit. They need an answer today. His voice was casual, friendly, like Mom hadn't hung up on me the day before, Like we hadn't had that conversation about lies and manipulation and my selfish behavior. Dad, I already told Mom. I'm not giving you the money. Come on, Amanda. Don't let some silly argument with your mother get in the way of Sarah's future. Silly argument. That's what my confrontation about being lied to and excluded had been reduced to. A silly argument. It's not about the argument. It's about the fact that you lied to me about Christmas and now you want me to hand over my savings account. We didn't lie about anything. Things have been tight. This gallery thing just came up suddenly. Dad, I've seen the Instagram posts. I've seen the Facebook check-ins. I know about the new tools in your garage and the new tires on your truck. Don't tell me things have been tight. Those were necessary expenses. Necessary? But Christmas with your daughter wasn't necessary? That's not what I said. It's what you did. There was a long pause. When he spoke again, his voice had changed, gotten harder. Look, Amanda, family helps family. That's how it works. We helped you plenty when you were growing up. By being parents? By doing the bare minimum required by law? Watch your mouth. We did a lot more than the bare minimum. Like what? Like supporting your decision to be a teacher, even though we knew you'd never make much money. Supporting my decision. As if I'd needed their permission to choose my own career. As if their lack of objection was some kind of gift I should be grateful for. Dad, I'm not an ATM. I'm your daughter, and I'm not giving you any more money until you can admit what you did wrong. What we did wrong? What we did wrong was raise a selfish, ungrateful daughter who can't help her own family when they need it. You don't need it, Dad. You want it. There's a difference. Same thing? No, it's not. Need is when you can't pay rent or buy food. Want is when you ask your daughter for $3,800 so your other daughter doesn't have to use her own money for her art career. You know what? Forget it. Forget I asked. Sarah will figure something else out. But remember this conversation, Amanda. Remember it when you need something from us. And he hung up too. I sat there in my apartment on New Year's Eve completely alone, having been hung up on by both my parents in the span of 2 days. All because I'd refused to hand over my savings and asked for honesty about their lies. But for the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel guilty about disappointing them. I felt free. Free from the constant pressure to solve their problems. Free from the guilt trips and manipulation. Free from being treated like a bank account instead of a daughter. I was done. Done with funding their lifestyle while they lied to me about their finances. Done with being excluded from family events but included in family financial emergencies. Done with being called selfish for wanting basic honesty and respect. The old Amanda would have called them back, apologized, and transferred the money just to keep the peace. The old Amanda would have blamed herself for being too sensitive, too demanding, too difficult. But the new Amanda, the Amanda who'd spent Christmas alone because of their lies, the Amanda who'd been asked for $3,800 3 days later without so much as an apology, the new Amanda was about to teach them a very expensive lesson about taking family for granted. My family lied to me on Christmas, chapters 4 to 6. That New Year's Eve night changed everything. I sat in my apartment, staring at my phone after Dad hung up on me, and something inside me just clicked. Like a switch had been flipped, turning off years of guilt and people-pleasing and turning on something I'd never felt before. Pure, righteous anger. For the first time in my life, I wasn't asking myself what I'd done wrong. I wasn't wondering how I could fix things or make everyone happy again. Instead, I was asking different questions. Why had I been funding their lifestyle for years while getting nothing in return? Why was I always the one expected to sacrifice? Why did they think they could lie to my face and then ask for thousands of dollars 3 days later? I opened my laptop and started researching. Financial boundaries with family. How to recognize financial abuse. Setting limits with manipulative relatives. The articles I found were like reading my own diary. Every manipulation tactic, every guilt trip, every pattern of behavior. It was all there, described by psychologists and therapists who understood exactly what I'd been living through. One article hit me particularly hard. It was titled, "The Family ATM. When relatives treat you like a bank account. The author described something called financial weaponization, when family members use emotional manipulation to access your money while providing no emotional or financial support in return. They train you to believe that helping them is your obligation, while helping you is their choice. That was my family. That was my entire relationship with them, reduced to one paragraph in a psychology article. I found online support groups for people dealing with financial abuse from family members. I'd never thought of it as abuse before. It was just family helping family, right? But reading other people's stories, I realized how wrong I'd been. The woman whose parents had drained her college fund for her brother's wedding. The man whose siblings expected him to pay for family vacations he wasn't invited to. The daughter who'd been giving her mother rent money for years, only to discover her mother owned 3 rental properties. My story wasn't unique. It was a pattern, a system, a deliberate strategy that toxic families used to exploit their most responsible members. And I'd been falling for it for years. I spent hours that night taking screenshots of everything. Dad's Facebook posts showing his new purchases, Mom's check-ins at expensive restaurants, Sarah's Instagram stories from trips and shopping sprees. I documented every time they'd asked me for money, every excuse they'd given, every promise to pay me back that had never materialized. The evidence was overwhelming. While claiming to be broke, they'd spent thousands on themselves. While excluding me from Christmas, they'd posted about their grateful family dinner. While asking me for $3,800, Sarah had been posting about her expensive coffee dates and weekend getaways. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about the complete disregard for my feelings, my needs, my reality. They'd trained me to believe that my role in the family was to give, and their role was to take. I was supposed to be grateful for the opportunity to help them, and I was selfish if I ever said no. Well, I was done being grateful. And I was definitely done being their personal bank account. January 2nd. I woke up with the kind of clarity I'd never experienced before. No more doubt, no more guilt, no more wondering if I was overreacting. I knew exactly what I needed to do, and I knew I had every right to do it. First, I changed my phone number. I'd been thinking about it for months anyway. Too many spam calls, too many telemarketers. But really, I just wanted a clean break from their constant requests for money disguised as family check-ins. Then I went to my bank and opened a new savings account that only I had access to. I transferred every penny from my old accounts, the ones my parents knew about, the ones they'd helped me set up when I was younger, the ones they felt entitled to ask about whenever they needed money. Next, I blocked them on all social media. Not just unfriended, blocked. I didn't want to see their posts about their latest purchases. I didn't want them to see mine. I didn't want any connection at all until they could learn to treat me like a daughter instead of an ATM. The most important step was going completely no contact. No calls, no texts, no emails, no visits. I needed space to heal from years of manipulation, and I needed them to experience the consequences of their actions without any cushion from me. But I didn't just disappear without explanation. I wrote each of them a letter, Mom, Dad, and Sarah. I wanted them to understand exactly why I was cutting them off, exactly what they'd done wrong, and exactly what would need to change if they ever wanted a relationship with me again. Dad's letter was the hardest to write. Dad, I'm writing this because I need you to understand why I'm stepping away from our family. For the past 2 years, you've asked me for money 11 times. Each time you've told me you were struggling financially. Each time I've helped without question because I love you and I want to support my family. But I've realized that you've never actually been struggling. You've been making choices, choosing to spend your money on tools and trucks and expensive dinners, then choosing to ask me to cover the things you didn't want to pay for yourself. You've been treating me like your backup plan, your safety net, your personal loan officer. The Christmas lie was the final straw, telling me you were too broke for family Christmas, then having an expensive dinner without me, then asking me for $3,800 3 days later. That wasn't just financial manipulation. That was emotional cruelty. I'm not your emergency fund anymore. I'm not your safety net. I'm your daughter, and I deserve to be treated like one. That means honesty, respect, and genuine care for my well-being, not just my bank account. If you want a relationship with me, you need to acknowledge what you've done wrong, apologize sincerely, and prove that you've changed. Until then, I need space to heal from the damage this dynamic has caused. I love you, but I won't fund you anymore. Amanda. Mom's letter was shorter, but more direct. Mom, I'm taking a break from our family because I can't continue to be manipulated and lied to. You've spent years training me to believe that helping you financially was my obligation as a daughter, while treating actual emotional support as optional. You excluded me from Christmas dinner, lied about the reasons why, then expected me to hand over my savings 3 days later. You've called me selfish for wanting honesty and dramatic for having feelings about being treated poorly. I'm not selfish for having boundaries. I'm not dramatic for expecting basic respect. I'm not an ATM, and I'm done being treated like one. When you're ready to have an honest conversation about how you've treated me, and when you're ready to apologize and change, I'll be here. Until then, I need space. Amanda. Sarah's letter was the most painful to write because she was my little sister, and part of me still wanted to protect her. Sarah, I'm stepping away from our family dynamic because I can't watch you learn these toxic patterns from Mom and Dad. You're starting your adult life believing that you deserve financial support without reciprocal emotional support, and that's going to damage every relationship you have. I've watched you post about expensive purchases while claiming to be unemployed. I've watched you exclude me from family events while expecting me to fund your opportunities. I've watched you learn that manipulation and guilt trips are acceptable ways to get what you want. I love you, but I won't enable this behavior anymore. You have talent and intelligence, and you don't need to use people to succeed. But you need to learn that love isn't measured by how much money someone will give you, and family isn't just about what you can get from each other. I hope you'll think about the difference between being supported and being used, and I hope you'll choose healthier patterns for your own relationships. Good luck with your art career. Fund it yourself. Amanda. I mailed all 3 letters on the same day, then sat back and waited for the explosion. It didn't take long. January 5th. My old phone, the one I'd kept just to see how they'd react, started buzzing constantly. 15 missed calls from Dad, 23 texts from Mom, 7 voicemails from Sarah. Dad's voicemails started angry, then got desperate. Amanda, what the hell is this letter about? Call me back right now. Then, I can't believe you're being this dramatic over nothing. Family helps family. Then, look, maybe we can work something out about the gallery thing. Call me. Mom's texts were pure manipulation. I can't believe my own daughter is treating me this way. After everything we've done for you, you're breaking my heart. Your father is devastated. How can you be so cruel? Sarah's messages were the most telling. Amanda, I don't understand why you're mad at me. I never asked you for money for the gallery. That was Dad's idea. Can't we just go back to normal? I miss you. She was already learning to deflect responsibility and act like the victim. At 22, she was already a master manipulator in training. But I didn't respond to any of them. Every call went to voicemail. Every text went unread on my old phone. Every attempt to contact me through social media hit a brick wall. For the first time in my adult life, I was completely unreachable to my family. The silence was beautiful. January 15th. That's when the real panic set in for them. My cousin Jessica called me at work. We weren't particularly close, but we followed each other on social media and saw each other at family gatherings. Amanda, what's going on? Your mom called me crying, saying you've disappeared and won't talk to anyone. I was surprised by how calm I felt. I haven't disappeared. I just decided to take a break from the family dynamic. She said you sent some really harsh letters and then blocked everyone. She's worried something's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with me. I just got tired of being treated like a bank account instead of a daughter. There was silence on the other end. Then, what do you mean? I gave Jessica the abbreviated version. The Christmas lie, the constant requests for money, the complete lack of reciprocal support. I told her about the $1,400 I'd given them over 2 years and the $3,800 they'd asked for 3 days after excluding me from Christmas. $11,000? Amanda, I had no idea. They're good at keeping it quiet. They've trained me to think it's normal, that it's what family does. But Jessica, when was the last time they helped me with anything? When was the last time they even asked how I was doing unless they needed money? Another long silence. You're right. I can't think of a time. They've been painting me as the villain to the extended family, haven't they? Poor Amanda abandoned her family over nothing. Selfish Amanda won't help when times are tough. Your mom did say you were being unreasonable about helping with Sarah's art career. Did she mention that she'd lied to me about Christmas? Did she mention the $11,400 I've already given them? Did she mention that Sarah's been posting about expensive purchases while claiming to be broke? No, she didn't mention any of that. Of course she didn't. They were controlling the narrative, making me the bad guy while conveniently leaving out the context that would make their behavior inexcusable. Jessica, I need you to understand something. I'm not punishing them. I'm protecting myself. I've spent years enabling their financial irresponsibility and emotional manipulation, and I can't do it anymore. This isn't about money. It's about basic respect and honesty. I get it. I mean, now that you've explained it, I get it. But Amanda, what if they change? What if they apologize? Then we'll talk, but they have to actually change, not just say they will. They have to acknowledge what they've done wrong, take full responsibility, and prove they're different, not just promise. Prove. After I hung up with Jessica, I realized something important. My family had been spreading their version of the story to everyone else, painting themselves as the victims of my unreasonable behavior. But they couldn't control what people thought once they heard the full truth, and the full truth was damning. February 1st, exactly 1 month after I'd gone no contact, Sarah showed up at my apartment. I saw her through the peephole standing in the hallway with tears running down her face. She looked younger than her 22 years, vulnerable and lost. For a moment, my old instincts kicked in. I wanted to open the door and hug her and fix whatever was wrong. But then I remembered the Christmas live stream, the expensive coffee dates, the gallery deposit she'd expected me to fund while pretending to be broke, the complete lack of accountability in her voicemails. I didn't open the door. She knocked for 10 minutes, calling my name, promising to explain everything. Amanda, please, I know you're in there. I just want to talk. I miss you so much. Please just let me explain. But I knew better now. Explanation wasn't the same as accountability. Missing someone wasn't the same as respecting them. And tears weren't the same as change. She finally left, but not before slipping a note under my door. Amanda, I don't understand why you're doing this to us. We're family. Family forgives each other. I know Dad can be difficult about money sometimes, but he loves you. Mom loves you. I love you. Why are you choosing to hurt us like this? I thought you were the mature one. Please come home. Sarah. I read that note 3 times, analyzing every sentence. She still didn't get it. She was still making it about my choices, my actions, my decision to hurt them. There was no acknowledgement of what they'd done wrong, no understanding of why I was upset, no accountability for their behavior. She thought forgiveness was something I owed them automatically, just because we shared DNA. She thought being family meant I had to accept lies, manipulation, and financial exploitation without complaint. She was wrong, and until she understood that, there was nothing to discuss. March 10th. Dad tried a different approach. He showed up at my school during my lunch break. I was walking to my car when I saw him leaning against it, arms crossed, wearing his stern father expression. My first instinct was panic. He'd never come to my workplace before. The invasion of my professional space felt aggressive, threatening. We need to talk, he said. No, we don't. I walked around him to unlock my car. You need to leave. Amanda, this has gone on long enough. You've made your point. Now it's time to be an adult about this. Be an adult, like cutting off people who lie to you and exploit you financially isn't the adult thing to do. I am being an adult. Adults have boundaries. Adults don't enable bad behavior. Adults protect themselves from manipulation. You're being dramatic. There was that word again, dramatic, their favorite way to dismiss my reality and my feelings. Dad, you lied to me about Christmas, excluded me from family dinner, then asked me for $3,800 3 days later. How is my response to that dramatic? We didn't lie about anything. Things were tight. Even now, even after everything, he couldn't admit the truth. He was still trying to gaslight me into believing my own eyes had deceived me. Dad, I have screenshots of your Facebook posts. New tools, new tires, expensive dinners. I have screenshots of Sarah's Instagram. Designer coffee, weekend trips, fancy restaurants. You weren't broke. You just didn't want to spend money on Christmas with me. His face flushed red. Those were necessary expenses. And Christmas with your daughter wasn't necessary? That's not what I said. It's what you did. He stepped closer to me, and for a moment I thought he might actually try to intimidate me physically, but I wasn't the same person who'd been manipulated for years. I wasn't scared of his anger anymore. Get away from my car, I said calmly, and don't come to my workplace again. Or what? Or I'll call security and have you escorted off school property. He stared at me for a long moment, clearly not recognizing this version of his daughter. The version who didn't cave to his anger, who didn't apologize for setting boundaries, who didn't care if he was upset with her. You've changed, he said finally. Yes, I have. I've stopped letting you manipulate me. This isn't over, Amanda. Yes, it is. Until you can acknowledge what you've done wrong and genuinely apologize for it, it's completely over. He drove away, and I sat in my car shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I'd stood up to him. I'd held my boundaries. I'd refused to be intimidated or manipulated. The old Amanda would have caved. She would have apologized for making him upset and promised to reconsider helping with Sarah's gallery deposit. But the new Amanda was done being anyone's safety net. May 20th. The call I'd been expecting finally came. Jessica called me at work, her voice strained. Amanda, I need to tell you something about your family. I knew what she was going to say before she said it. What happened? Sarah's gallery thing fell through. The deposit they needed? They couldn't come up with it. And now they're having some kind of financial crisis. Your mom called me asking if I could lend them money. I felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness. Vindication because it proved I'd been right all along. They'd been living beyond their means and using me as their safety net. Sadness because they were still refusing to face reality about their financial situation. How much did they ask you for? $5,000. They said it was for your dad's truck payment and some medical bills for your mom. And? I said no. Amanda, after what you told me, I started paying attention to their social media posts. Your mom shared a photo from an expensive restaurant last week. Your dad posted about buying new fishing equipment. Sarah got her hair done at that fancy salon downtown. They're not having a medical emergency. They're having a consequences emergency. I smiled despite myself. A consequences emergency. I like that phrase. They're panicking because their backup plan isn't available anymore. You were their backup plan, Amanda, and now they actually have to live within their means. Good. It's about time. Your mom seemed really shocked that I said no, like she couldn't believe someone would refuse to help family in need. She's probably going to call everyone in the extended family asking for money, and when people start saying no, she'll paint them as selfish too. Actually, she already did that. She called our Aunt Linda, Uncle Frank, and your dad's brother Mike. They all said no after asking some follow-up questions about the family's actual financial situation. I was quiet for a moment, processing this. My decision to cut them off had ripple effects I hadn't anticipated. Other family members were starting to see through their manipulation too. How do you feel about that? Jessica asked. Relieved mostly. I spent so long thinking I was the only one who could help them, the only one who understood their struggles. But it turns out their struggles weren't real, just their unwillingness to live within their means. They're really struggling now, though. Like, actually struggling. They're struggling with the consequences of their choices. That's different from struggling with circumstances beyond their control. June 15th. 6 months after I'd gone no contact, I got the letter I'd been waiting for. It was from Mom, handwritten in her careful script. But this letter was different from her previous attempts to contact me. This one didn't start with guilt trips or accusations of selfishness. Dear Amanda, I've been thinking about your letter for months now, and I've been talking to a counselor about our family dynamic. I need to apologize to you. You were right about Christmas. We weren't too broke for Christmas dinner. We chose to spend our money on other things and exclude you because we thought it would be easier than explaining our real financial situation. We knew you'd ask questions about why we needed help if you saw us spending money on ourselves. You were right about the gallery deposit, too. We asked you for $3,800 not because we couldn't afford it, but because we didn't want to use our own money for Sarah's art career. We'd rather use yours. You were right about everything. We have been treating you like our backup plan, our safety net, our personal bank account. We trained you to feel guilty for having financial stability while we chose to live beyond our means. We manipulated you into funding our lifestyle choices while giving you nothing in return. I'm not writing this to ask for forgiveness or to try to get you to come back. I'm writing this because you deserve to hear the truth, and you deserve an apology. The counselor helped me understand that we've been financially and emotionally abusing you for years. I didn't want to admit that at first, but she's right. We took advantage of your love and your sense of family obligation to exploit you financially. We dismissed your feelings, gaslit you about reality, and made you feel guilty for having normal human needs like inclusion and honesty. Sarah is in counseling too now. She's starting to understand how the family dynamic taught her unhealthy patterns about relationships and money. She wants to write to you herself when she's ready to take full accountability. Your father isn't ready to admit he was wrong yet. He's still angry that you abandoned the family and still thinks you were being dramatic. I hope he'll get there eventually, but I can't speak for him. I want you to know that cutting us off was the right decision. We needed to face the consequences of our behavior, and you needed to protect yourself from our manipulation. I'm sorry it took losing you for me to see how badly we'd been treating you. If you're ever ready to talk, I'll be here, but I understand if you're not. I understand if you never want to see any of us again. We earned this distance through our actions. I love you, and I'm sorry. Mom. I read that letter 5 times, crying by the 3rd time through. It was everything I'd needed to hear for months. Complete accountability, genuine remorse, acknowledgement of the damage they'd caused, and respect for my boundaries. But I also knew that one letter didn't undo years of manipulation. Real change would take time to prove, and trust would take even longer to rebuild. I wrote back, a short letter that I thought about for days before sending. Mom, thank you for your letter and your apology. It means more than you know to have my reality acknowledged and validated. I'm glad you're in counseling and that Sarah is too. Those are important steps. I'm not ready for a relationship yet, but I'm no longer completely closed to the possibility. Real change takes time to prove, and trust takes even longer to rebuild. But this letter shows me that change might actually be possible. I hope Dad finds his way to accountability too, in his own time. I love you, but I'm still protecting myself. I hope you understand. Amanda. September 30th. Almost 9 months after I'd cut them off, I was living a completely different life. I'd moved to a better apartment with the money I wasn't sending to my family every month. I'd started dating someone, a fellow teacher named Marcus, who thought it was normal for families to support each other emotionally without financial exploitation. I'd made new friends through work and hobbies, people who cared about my well-being without expecting anything in return. Most importantly, I'd discovered who I was when I wasn't defined by my role as the family ATM. I was funnier than I'd thought, more social than I'd realized, more confident than I'd ever been. I'd spent so much energy managing my family's crises and emotions that I'd forgotten what it felt like to just live my own life. The guilt was mostly gone now, replaced by a clear understanding that I'd done the right thing. Protecting yourself from manipulation isn't selfish. It's necessary. Setting boundaries with people who exploit you isn't cruel. It's healthy. I'd also learned something else important. Real family doesn't treat you like a bank account. Real family doesn't lie to you and then expect you to fund their lies. Real family supports you emotionally and respects your boundaries. My biological family had failed at being real family. But I was building something better with the people who'd proven they actually cared about me as a person. That didn't mean I didn't miss them sometimes. I missed the version of them I'd thought they were before I understood their manipulation. I missed the family I'd hoped we could be, but I didn't miss the anxiety, the guilt trips, the constant pressure to sacrifice my own well-being for their convenience. On my birthday that year, the first birthday in my adult life that I celebrated without them, Marcus asked me if I regretted cutting them off. No, I said without hesitation. I regret that it took me so long to do it. Do you think you'll ever reconcile? Maybe with Mom and Sarah if they continue therapy and prove real change over time. Probably not with Dad unless he has a major attitude adjustment. But honestly, I'm okay either way. I've learned that family is about how people treat you, not about DNA. And I'm building a family of people who actually love and respect me. I'm proud of you, he said. It takes courage to walk away from people who are supposed to love you. It takes more courage to stay and let them destroy you. I chose courage. The best revenge against people who treat you like an ATM isn't anger or hatred. It's living a beautiful life without funding theirs. It's discovering your worth when you're not being constantly devalued. It's building genuine relationships with people who see you as more than a bank account. My family taught me an expensive lesson. Love isn't measured by how much money you'll give someone, and family isn't defined by how much you'll sacrifice for people who give nothing in return. The most valuable thing I learned? Sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away from people who can't love you properly. Sometimes protecting yourself is the most generous thing you can do, for yourself and for them. Because until they face the consequences of their behavior, they'll never change. And until they change, they'll keep hurting everyone who's foolish enough to enable them. I wasn't foolish anymore, and I wasn't their safety net anymore. I was finally, completely, authentically free.